This our hymn of grateful praise, for the joy of human love, brother, sister, parent, child, friends on earth and friends above, for all gentle thoughts and mild. Lord of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. Lift up your hands to the righteous one, who lived a life of humble love. His battle against death will be won. Oh, lift up your hands to the righteous one. Oh, sing your praise to the glorious Son, who died that we could all be one, and showed us the world is built on love. Oh, sing your praise to the glorious Son. Glory and honor give to the Lamb, who was slain at the hands of evil men, took that evil into himself, and overcame the sting of death. Lift up your hands to the risen Lord, who came to overcome the world with the power of love that never the sword. Oh, lift up your hands to the risen Lord. Glory and honor give to the Lamb, who was slain at the hands of evil men, took that evil into himself, and overcame the sting of death. Glory and honor give to the Lamb, who was slain at the hands of evil men, took that evil into himself, and overcame the sting of death. Oh, the vapor of it all. It's a chasing of the wind, the substance of the form, so pale and thin. Let the veil of earth be stretched again. Holy, all behold the holy. Trees clap their hands for you, oceans they dance for you. Heaven taunts the hearts of men. We can feel it from within, the beauty of it all, the mystery, the swelling of a voice, a rising invincible and holy. Kings become fools for you, kingdoms to rules for you. Vapor finds ground in you, music finds sound in you. Everything rising, everything rising, everything rising, everything rising, everything rising. Come like dawn, like rays, like sunlight, bring this world to life. Come like rain, like breath, like springtime, bring this world to life. Who am I that the Lord of all the earth would care to know my name, would care to feel my hurt? Who am I that the bright and morning star would choose to light the way for my ever-wandering heart? Not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. Not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow. A wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you've told me who I am. I am yours. Who am I that the eyes that see my sin will look on me with love and watch me rise again? Who am I that the voice that calmed the sea would call out through the rain and calm the storm in me? Not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. Not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow. A wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you told me who I am. I am yours. I am yours. I am
All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see you guys here, those who made it out. Great to see you. A little bit of rain don't keep you all away. It's good. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Thanks for deciding to be with us here at Waters. Also, want to welcome the millions of people watching via streaming here this morning as well. I don't even know if that thing's on this morning, but it'd be a shame if it wasn't. It's good to be with you guys here. It's not often that I get the chance to speak, and when I do, I get really nervous, so I have a lot of nervous energy. So I ask that you give me a little bit of grace there. But I wanted to start with a story that Jesus told in Matthew chapter 20. This story starts by Jesus answering a question of somebody who had come up to him and asked him about what the kingdom of heaven was like. And we've talked about the kingdom of heaven here, this new humanity that we are a part of, a new way of thinking, a new way to move through this world today, here and now. And this man comes up to him and asks him about the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus says this in Matthew 20. He tells him a story. He's like, the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who hired some guys to come out to his vineyard. He goes out in the morning. You can turn there. I'm going to be paraphrasing it the whole time, but if you want to follow along to check my facts, go ahead. He goes out to the marketplace, to the town square, rather, in the market, where there's some day laborers. You know, it's not uncommon, even in today's world, in other parts of the country, and some still here in the States, day laborers waiting to be employed for work. Just waiting for someone to have a project for them so they can be hired, so they can make the money that they need for that day and for that week. And every day they go out hoping that somebody has some work in their fields for them to do. And so these guys are in the town square waiting for somebody to come around, like this landowner, who's got, you know, plenty of vineyards for them to come work, and he goes and he hires them. He says, come work for me, and I'll pay you a denarius, which is a day's worth of wages. These guys agree to come on board. They follow him to his vineyard, and they start working. Later on at 9 in the morning, this landowner goes out again and finds another group of day laborers that are waiting. And he says, what are you guys doing out here? He's like, well, you know, we're just waiting to be hired. He's like, come with me, work in my vineyard today, and I'll pay you what is right. Okay? I'll pay you what's right. Okay, so they follow him, and they go to the vineyard as well. The landowner does this again at noon, brings back another crew, then again at 3, and brings back another crew, and then goes out again at 5, almost the end of the day, and he finds some people still that haven't been hired. And he goes up to them in the town square, and he's like, what are you guys doing? Why are you just standing around doing nothing? And they say, well, no one's hired us today. And he says, come follow me. Work in my vineyard, and I'll pay you. Okay, so they go. Then the end of the day happens, let's call it 6 o'clock, because the last guys were only there for an hour. And the landowner says to this foreman, he's like, hey, go ahead, line everybody up and pay them their wages. Start with the ones who came in last. Pay them first. And the guys who came in first, pay them last. It's interesting. Okay, so foreman goes ahead and does that, and he asks them all to line up, and he starts paying them. And the guys who came in last, at 5 o'clock, they get paid a denarius, which is, again, a day's worth of wages. Right? So the guys behind him, the guys that came in at 3 o'clock and at noon, they're looking at that like, oh, that can only be good for us. The guys definitely that came in last were like, well, the guys who only worked an hour are getting a denarius. I mean, we worked like 8 times what they did. Surely we're going to get more, right? They expected to receive more. So it comes all the way to their turn, and foreman pays them a denarius. These guys start talking and grumbling amongst themselves against the landowner. They say, dude, this guy paid the same for a group of guys that came in the last hour that they paid us. And then the landowner comes up to them and is like, hey, is there a problem? He's like, yeah, there's a problem. You pay these guys the exact same amount that you paid us. You know, you made them equal to us. And we've been working here all day from morning till evening through the hot evening sun. You know, and then you pay these guys that come in for the last hour and you pay them the same thing that we get. I mean, that's not fair. And the landowner says to these guys, he's like, I'm not being unfair to you. Didn't you agree to come on board and work for me for a day's wage, for a denarius? Didn't we agree that was it? This is my money. don't I have the right to do with it whatever I want to? If I want to pay these guys more, take your pay and go. That's what we agreed on. Or are you envious that I'm generous? Are you envious that I've been generous with other people? You know? So when you first hear that story, to me, there's a couple things throughout it. I'm like, oh, that's a nice line at the end. You know, are you envious that I'm generous? You know, like, yeah, we shouldn't be envious that they're generous. But like, still, there's a part of that story that is like, yeah, but those guys, right? I mean, they came in at the end, and they got paid the same. If I was the guy who came in early, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I just feel like it would, because you can't teach those guys that they can come in the last minute, right, and get a full day's wage just for working 1 hour. You can't teach them that that's the right thing to do. They'll get lazy, and that's all they'll want to do is work 1 hour and get a full day's wage, right? I mean, that's obviously how it works. So, like, you can't set that up as you can't live your life like that. That's just not right. You know, there's something within me, and I'm telling you just what I feel initially when reading this story. That's kind of the first thing that hits me. But let me park that story right there, and we're going to come back to it. All right? I want to talk about something else. I'm just going to sit that right there and let's talk about something else. I want to talk about wisdom, right? What's wisdom? Wisdom it's a combination of knowledge and understanding about how the world works, about how people work, about how society works, right? The more wisdom, the more knowledge and understanding you have about a situation, the more you're able to navigate your way through life, right? And especially in religion, in Christianity, we kind of champion wisdom. We say wisdom is something that we should strive to achieve, to gain. We search for wisdom, right? That's something that's very valued, right? But not all wisdom is created equal, right? Not all wisdom is created equal. Let me tell you what I mean. There's different phases, there's different angles, there's different dimensions to wisdom, right? So let me start here. There's conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom, right? This is where we all agree that this is what we do, right? We all agree that these things are right, whether it's you don't ask a woman her age, right? You don't ask her if she's pregnant. You know, it's conventional wisdom, right? You wear a seatbelt when you drive in a car, right? You look both ways when you cross the street. Don't talk to strangers. Like these are things that are just conventional wisdom that we subscribe to. We know that they're good things to do. You probably shouldn't put yourself in a position where you're talking to a stranger because some dangers might happen. You buckle your safety belt because statistics show us that if you're in a car accident, you're more likely to survive with less injuries than if you were to have wearing your seatbelt. You look both ways to cross the street because obviously you don't want to get hit by a car as you're crossing the street, right? Some of these rules are written. Some of these are law, right? You buckle your safety belt, click it or ticket, right? You don't want to be driving out because you'll get a ticket for that. Others, looking both ways before you cross the street, that's just conventional wisdom. That's just, you just know that, right? You just know that that's the way you move through life, you walk through life. It's a really good thing, conventional wisdom. It keeps us safe. It helps us to avoid making life a little bit more difficult for ourselves. Now, there's conventional wisdom, but then there's also pre-conventional wisdom, right? So this wisdom, pre-conventional wisdom, objects to conventional wisdom, right? It opposes it, but it comes from a place of like unawareness, right? Like if you're a parent or you've had parents, right? You've observed parents trying to teach their children conventional wisdom. They're trying to bring them from pre-conventional wisdom to conventional wisdom by saying, we shower on a daily basis. That's something that you need to know. Don't yell in libraries. Don't run in museums. When you talk to somebody, I remember my dad teaching me this at church. He's like, every time that I would say hi, or I'd walk, my dad's having conversation, they would say hi to me, and I just kind of like walk by, I didn't look at people in the eye. I didn't say hello. I didn't shake their hand. And my dad was very intentional about making sure that I would stop, look at the person in their eyes, extend my hand, say hello. Look at them. Be respectful. That was the way that we that we did things, right? My dad taught me that. He was a pastor. We were in church, pastor's family. We gotta be social, right? We gotta say hello to people. You can't be like that pastor kid, man. We had to do things right. So my dad taught me how to do some of those things. And so pre-conventional wisdom a lot of times is the kid that says no for no reason, just because they're unaware, they're ignorant. You should do your homework. You should turn in your homework on time because you just need to do that. That's the right thing to do. And the kid's like, I don't care about homework. Whatever about homework. That doesn't matter. When I used to teach the teenagers, we're trying to help them sit down and be respectful of someone who was speaking on stage or someone that was giving them a lesson. We would try to say, hey, when someone else is speaking, you guys don't make jokes and laugh around yourself. It's distracting for everybody else. That's conventional wisdom. But pre-conventional wisdom is like, I don't care about that. Not because they have any reason to. It's just because they're unaware of the way that things are done, right? The way that things are done conventionally. So you have conventional wisdom, the way that the group does things, the way that society, it doesn't have to be written, right? It doesn't have to be laws. They're just things that you pick up in life, just the way that we do things. You have pre-conventional wisdom, a place for most teenagers or children or even adults, but just reject that just because they don't want to do it. It doesn't really come from a place of awareness. It just comes from a place of ignorance and opposes conventional wisdom. But then there's post-conventional wisdom, right? Now, post-conventional wisdom is a wisdom that comes out of conventional wisdom. It realizes the good that conventional wisdom has to offer, but it also points out, hey, conventional wisdom doesn't cut it in all the areas. Conventional wisdom has some holes, and it's leaving some people out to dry. Conventional wisdom sometimes isn't big enough or nuanced enough for life, for the real situations that life presents us. And as a parent, going back to this parent example, you do the same thing as you've been raising your children or as your parents have been raising you. Typically what will happen is your parents are hearing conventional wisdom. They're saying, don't put your elbows on the table. Don't rub peanut butter in your hair. Wear deodorant. Do all these things. And they're like, no, no, no. And they're like, this is a better way to do life. And then you get them on board to conventional wisdom, but then a parent is also trying to get them to post-conventional wisdom by saying, hey, just because everybody does it doesn't mean that you need to do it too. Right? If everybody's going to jump off a bridge, doesn't mean that you need to jump off a bridge too. Think outside of that. Think about, this is a wisdom that transcends conventional wisdom. It's post-conventional wisdom. Just because everybody agrees that it's the right thing to do doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do, right? This conventional wisdom isn't taking into account everything. Try to see it from this perspective, right? So peer pressure. We're always talking about peer pressure with the teenagers when we were teaching the teenagers. And my parents taught it to me, and I'm sure everybody goes through life trying to help them, teenagers and people who are growing up, not just see the world through this lens just because everybody says this is the way to do it. Think outside of that. Think bigger than that, right? Yes, a lot of these things are true, but it's missing some things for your well-being, right? Think larger than that. Transcend the conventional wisdom is a way we can say it. So that's it, right? Conventional wisdom, pre-conventional wisdom, which opposes conventional wisdom just out of a place of ignorance. And then you have did I say it right? Pre-conventional opposes conventional. Post-conventional sometimes seems like it's opposing conventional as well, because you're telling them, don't follow the norm. Don't follow the group thing. Don't follow what everybody has agreed is right. Try to think outside of that, right? So we have those different areas of wisdom. So let's jump back to the parable, right? Jump back to this story. It's a crazy story because these day laborers are trying to make, a day's wage. And to put this in perspective, we're not talking about making like $80,000 difference between $80,000 and $150,000. Okay, this is a day's wage to live off a daily basis, right? This gets you through the day, right? So these men, they're not expecting to pay the same. They're looking at this and they're saying, this isn't fair. that we work longer and we all get paid the same. And it's true, it isn't fair. In conventional wisdom teaches you if you work, right, if you work harder, if you work longer, you should get paid more. You should be more successful. You should be given more rewards than somebody who has not. But this is kind of where this parable is trying to get at, where Jesus is saying this is where conventional wisdom, what we need to be cautious of, is that conventional wisdom speaks to us and informs us in a very literal, black and white way. And I mentioned earlier, it doesn't give way for the expansiveness of life, for the depth of life. It's very much A plus B equals C. These are the facts. It's black and white. You're in or out. You do this, you get this. You do this, you'll get this out of it, right? No pain, no gain. Sometimes it's just pain, right? And you want gain, but sometimes it's just pain, right? And sometimes there's gain with no pain because it's a gift. Someone gave you something. What? Sometimes these things don't work because life doesn't work this way all the time. It's good, but it doesn't work this way all the time. And Jesus is saying, listen, conventional wisdom is telling these guys that the guys who came in last don't deserve to be paid the same amount. But think about what they're really saying. This is a day's wage. In conventional thinking, what these guys are arguing for is these guys should be paid less. These guys shouldn't be paid a full day's wage, which means, as a result, these guys don't get to feed their families. These guys don't get to make the money they need to survive another day or go through a more difficult set of situations just to make it through the day, right? They were all in the same boat. We're all looking for work. These guys didn't get work, but the landowner, the story here Jesus is saying is that the landowner comes and he says, in the kingdom of heaven, those who have been left out, those who have not been paid attention to, those who have not been given an opportunity to make a day's wage, will have enough. They'll have enough. The unfairness is rooted out of generosity. Whereas these guys, from conventional wisdom, they're looking at these guys, and this is rooted in scarcity, right? They think that they shouldn't get a full day's wage because for whatever reason, maybe there isn't enough, or they're afraid that they haven't been given their just due. They got what they agreed on. And Jesus comes in and says, the kingdom of heaven, this new way of thinking about life, is really like a landowner who pays everybody the same, who gives everybody enough, who doesn't let people starve out in the cold just because they came in at the last minute, in the last hour. So with this story, this parable, Jesus invites us to enter into post-conventional wisdom, to think differently about the way we move through life. The Jesus tradition constantly says, you have heard it said, conventional wisdom, this is what you've always heard it said, but I say to you, right? This is the same point you can gather out of the story of the Good Samaritan, right? Where the Good Samaritan, right, so this guy in the story, I'll sum it up real quick. Guy's walking, gets beat up by a bunch of burglars on the side of the road, left almost for dead. And a priest and a Levite, both who are supposed to be the religious men of their societies, look at this man and step on the other side of the road and leave him in the ditch, right? And the Samaritan who comes by is the one who gets him, picks him up. And you know what the reason was that they left him in the ditch is because they didn't want to be unholy. Because if they touched something, they would become unholy, right? And the point here is saying, conventional wisdom tells you black and white. This equals this. This plus this equals this. And it's like not leaving room for you to help a guy who's lying in a ditch, right? The story here, Jesus is saying, is you're arguing to have people not make it through the next day. You're arguing for people to be hungry because that's what they deserve based on conventional wisdom. Post-conventional wisdom says, that's not enough. That's not enough. We need to come around and help. Conventional wisdom is good to a certain extent, but you have to think outside that at times in the Jesus tradition and see this is where humanity is going. This is the way the kingdom is headed in. Thinking of others outside of literal black and white, A plus B equals C. And that's it. That's the story. That's the story of the parable. Jesus saying that this is the kingdom of heaven. This is what it's like. I want to go into the breakouts, and I want to talk about this a little bit more in depth. I want to talk about the conventional wisdom that we see every day and where we're leaving out holes. Where are we leaving the gaps? Where are we not paying attention to others? Where's conventional wisdom telling us to say, too bad, sucks to be you? Right? What are the holes in our way of thinking? Jesus constantly, if you read the Bible, constantly is saying, you heard it said, I say to you, the last shall be first. What is he saying? What is he saying with these types of messages? I'm going to ask the band to come back up here and play a song for us. And while they're doing that, let's take that time to think and meditate on this parable. There's a lot in here, right? There's a lot I didn't get into. Like Jesus says to these guys, this is right? I'll pay you what is right. He's not paying them what is fair. He's paying them what is right. There's a lot of things in this parable that are really good for us to kind of dig deep into. But take a moment and meditate on the idea of where what we think is black and white, right and wrong, who's in and out, can be flipped on its head and can be accepting and open and embracing to those who are left on the outside based on our conventional wisdom.
Oh, the vapor of it all. It's the chasing of the wind, the substance of the form, so pale and thin. Let the veil of earth be stretched again. Holy, oh, behold the holy. Trees clap their hands for you, oceans they dance for you. Heaven taunts the hearts of men. We can feel it from within, the beauty of it all, the mystery, the swelling of a voice, a rising sea. Holy, oh, behold the holy. Trees clap their hands for you, oceans they dance for you. You are holy, infinite and holy. A billion suns rise for you, clouds paint the skies for you, mountains stand tall for you, valleys bow down to you, everything rising to sing all of their songs to you. Oh, for you, kingdoms to rules for you. Vapor finds ground in you, music finds sound in you. Everything rising, everything rising, everything rising, everything rising, everything rising. Come alive, dawn alike, rays like sunlight, bring this world to life. Come alive, rain like breath like springtime, bring this world to life.
Again, thank you very much for joining us. Please stick around, have a conversation with us about this very topic. In our breakout sessions, we'll have coffee, donuts, or sweets of some sort. And I appreciate you guys being with us and those millions of viewers on our streaming app. Thank you very much for joining us.